Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. Busy hour coming up in 15 minutes. We'll go over the NBA card for tonight. A lot of great numbers on the schedule. And bottom of the hour, Richard Munchkin, lifelong professional gambler, going to be in studio for about an hour today. And he has incredible stories throughout his career here. Another tremendous guest to begin the hour. Mike Detillier joins the program, WWL in New Orleans and SaintsReport.com. A lot to get into here with Mike as he's on the progressive guest line. Thanks for the time today, as always, Mike. How are you?
My pleasure. It's great, guys. Great to be with you.
Yeah. Okay. So once you found out last Sunday night, we were going to get the Eagles and Chiefs again, like we had it 2 years ago in the Super Bowl, in your backyard, by the way, in New Orleans this year. And the point spread and the total were quickly posted on sportsbooks across the country. Chiefs a small favorite, total upper 40s. Did you have an immediate opinion on the game, Mike?
Yeah, I still think that I'm not going to lose my money and bet against Patrick Mahomes in big games. I mean, put it to you this way. They got a lot of people that say, well, I do it and I win money. Well, that ain't exactly correct. I'm going with the Chiefs. I think they cover, and I would take the over. I don't think the Chiefs defense are going to be able to stop. They may be able to slow it down, but the running attack of the Eagles, if Kellen Moore is smart here as an offensive coordinator, he pounds Saquon Barkley 26 to 30 times in this game. Because you watched last week.
Yes.
James Cook. My thing is, why did Joe Brady unplug him?
Yeah, right.
In the second half? It startled me that he had so much success running the ball, and then he sort of unplugged it a little bit. And you know what? How many times have we seen this, guys? They tried to out Mahomes. You're not winning like that. Run the football and take it to them. I think the Eagles have a shot in this game. But again, in big situations, big games, is there a better player than Pat Mahomes? And the one thing I took away from a negative side on the Eagles when they played the Commanders, they still trying to cover Zach Ertz. He was open virtually every play at tight end. Well, guess who the Chiefs got playing tight end? Travis Kelce. And so, for me, if they don't fix that, and Vic Fangio's the guy, man, I go back a lot of years with Vic. Vic was the linebackers coach for the Dome Patrol defense of the Saints in the 1980s when they had Ricky Jackson, Pat Swilling, Sam Mills, Vaughn Johnson. There'll never be a foursome like that again because you couldn't afford to pay him for any length of time. But my goodness, Vic would always laugh about it. I didn't coach him. I just pointed him in the right direction.
Yes. So do you think then Carter and company can put heat on Mahomes and make a difference? It sounds like you don't think that'll happen.
I think they will be able to, but, man, I think a lot of that short stuff is going to be there with Kelce. And, it happens almost weekly. There's a new guy involved with the Chiefs. Is this week going to become one of the two veteran receivers? If Hollywood Brown or DeAndre Hopkins?
Absolutely.
Because they've fed it to Worthy, okay? Xavier Worthy. He's really played better than I think anyone thought he would play this year. Because you thought maybe that first year he would get a few touches. No, he's become a big part of their offense. But the one thing with Andy Reid, he does a great job of catching you a little off guard. And I think they're going to press those two rookie corners, who I think have played fantastic. Quinyon Mitchell, Dijon, and Cooper, man, they have played fantastic this year. But I think that they're going to try to press those two guys. And again, I go back to the Commanders game. How many catches Zach Ertz had in that game? And he was open a few more times. They're going to pump that thing to Travis Kelce because they saw there is a weakness there in that Eagle defense. But right now, Jalen Carter, he is the best defensive tackle in pro football. He plays the run better than Chris Jones. They take Chris out in obvious running situations sometimes to give him a breather. But, man, Jalen Carter's a handful.
No doubt. I agree with your assessment as well. So a lot going on in your backyard. You got the game, and then who's going to be the coach? Did they want Kingsbury? Was he the number one choice, and then he pulled out? So now it's Kellen Moore? Take me through this.
I've always felt the number one choice for them was Aaron Glenn. He was a former player here. He was a former assistant coach here. He actually was the runner-up to Dennis Allen when Mickey Loomis hired Dennis a few years ago. He was the number two guy on that list. And I thought he was the guy. And then I can understand him picking the Jets because of the deficiencies this Saints football team has today. You don't have the young quarterback in place. You got salary cap issues, major ones for 2025. It eases up in 26, but still you got to deal with it this year. And look on this roster, and I always throw this out. This team is devoid of good young core players, 27 years or younger. Other than Eric McCoy, give me another guy that you say can start on any of the 32 teams in the NFL that's on the Saints roster that's 27 years of age or younger.
Wow, that's a very strong comment. He's the only guy you think that you'd have to make a case for.
Well, Fuagu, I think, would start on some teams because I think that pick they hit on. Probably I'll say Fuagu is going to end up being a really good offensive tackle in this league. But other than McCoy, of a certainty, there is none. This is an older team with a Cam Jordan and Tyrann Mathieu and DeMario Davis and Alvin Kamara. You know, you got a team now that has gotten old very quickly.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a major that no squad in the NFL loves to use the R word. It's the dirty word in athletic language, rebuild, but they're going to have to.
Let's follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Mike Detillier, WWL in New Orleans, also SaintsReport.com. Do you like the idea of Moore being the next head coach? Is he going to get? Do you think he's going to be distracted in the Super Bowl because of it?
No, I think, you know, one thing with the Saints, they know better than to step on the toes of the NFL. If any team has gotten in trouble with the NFL over the last 10 years, more than the Saints, you know, so they're going to go by the rules because they saw the last time this happened with Gannon, you know, when he was with the Eagles and they're in Arizona and he ends up staying there, but then, you know, they get robbed of some draft choices because the Saints, man, the last thing they need is to have draft choices pulled from them. So my thing with Kellen Moore is I sort of know what he's going to want to run offensively. And I was impressed the fact that his reputation was a pass-happy type coach. He goes to the Eagles, and he took a look at that offensive line and Saquon and said, hey, guys, guess what? We're going to run the ball, and I'm going to adapt my system to it. I would have to see what his staff is defensively. I think that's always a key when you are an offensive-based coach or you're a defensive-oriented coach, what you do on the other side of the football and who you're able to bring in. Players are one on the list, and it always will. 1B is always assistant coaches.
You're a draft expert. What do you think of this class and the quarterback class and who could go 1 through 5?
I think probably you'll see quarterbacks selected in the top 5. I work with one every day, you know, and the one thing I've learned from him, you know, and I will agree with Hebert on this, that quarterbacks trump everything. And so I think Cam Ward's going to go 1 to the Titans. And that's going to vary where Shadir Sanders goes. Does he go to the Giants? Do the Raiders make maybe a move up to try to get Shadir? Because he's worked with Tom Brady in the offseason. And Tom seemingly has a lot of pull there. And I do think Jackson Dart will go in round 1. I think that will be 3. And I think Jackson Dart may go a little bit higher than some people think he'll go.
I think you're right.
I've watched him when he was starting at USC. He comes to Ole Miss. People question, can he run a pro-style system? Yeah, he can run it. You know, man, he's got a live arm, always wants to push the football downfield. I wish he'd be a little bit more patient because sometimes he turns down an open receiver in the short intermediate part of the field to hit the deep ball. Now, is that partially Lane Kiffin or is that partially him? I think it's a little bit of a combination. I think you'll see 3 quarterbacks going around 1. But I think in this draft class where it's huge, you will have, in my top 75, I have 24 defensive linemen. Defensive interior people or edge guys.
Wow.
It is the flip of a year ago where it was so heavy on offensive linemen. This year, really good along the defensive line. And I think that, you're going to see those guys peel off the board very, very quickly. And I do believe Abdul Carter will be going in the number 2 spot.
Number 2, okay. Where does Travis Hunter go then? We have like 30 seconds here. Does he go number 3 overall?
I think he's in 3.
Okay.
I think either somebody trades for him at the 3 spot or he gets picked at 3. But I think it'll be Cam Ward. I certainly believe it'll be Abdul Carter, and then it'll be Travis Hunter.
Very, very good. You can follow Mike on X. He's at Mike Detillier, SaintsReport.com, and WWL in New Orleans. That was awesome. We love talking to you. Thanks for the time today, Mike, and enjoy the Super Bowl in your own backyard next week.
Thank you, guys. Y'all take care.
Thank you, sir.
NBA card up next. They're about as bad as it gets when they've been on the road for this long. 2-18-1 ATS. Find out which team next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Good to have you on board here on another very busy, action-packed Friday edition of Follow the Money. Coming up in 15 minutes, Pauly's favorite guest who's been on this show in the last 7.5 years. His name is Richard Munchkin, professional gambler, bettor, advantage player. He would go anywhere in the world if he had an edge. He's got unbelievable stories. He's going to be in studio coming up at the time, trying to transition into a full-time sports bettor. So we'll talk to him about that. NBA card coming up tonight. What do you make of Denver laying this many points at Philadelphia?
I know. I think it's too much.
Yeah, that was exactly what I thought.
Yeah, they're playing good ball. And they pulled something. They were catching the same number against Sac, beat them outright, beat the Lakers outright, had another nice win in Chicago. It just doesn't matter who's been out. These guys have been getting it done and led by Maxey. So I do think it'll be a high-scoring game as well. So that's I think that's too high.
Steve Makinen puts out his angles like every single day in the NBA at vsin.com. How about this? Denver is on a 3-13 ATS skid, playing its 3rd straight road game since the start of last season. That's no good, obviously. So, yeah, Philly's playing. This Denver defense, how are they going to slow down Maxey? Doesn't Maxey go off kind of like he did against the Lakers the other night?
Yeah, they couldn't slow down the Bulls either.
That's what I think here. Yeah, Michael Porter, for what it's worth, the NBA player prop analyzer at vsin.com, 32-15 over when his number is 15.5 points, which is what it is tonight. I was going to say that coming in here today, betting this game with both fists, the Pelicans and the points. But then I saw before the show that Zion Williamson was deemed questionable for the game, and the number went up.
Yeah, he's sick.
Yeah, so at Circa here, Boston, they were down to 10. Everybody else is like at 10.5 or 11. Then it went to 11.5. So I can't get involved with New Orleans at this point. Derek White, 31-14 over 13.5 points. They played not that long ago in Boston. New Orleans, they were still down several guys. They were catching 15, almost beat them.
I know. That's why to me, you can't take the Celtics. Yeah. They'd lost 5 in a row at home. Then they blew out the Bulls. But then they've been laying numbers like this all year, and it's been a struggle. So whether, the board not shooting well, bad offense, and then this is the Super Bowl for everyone. I mean, you look at their record, it's incredible what's gone after this hot start, how poorly they're playing and almost losing and sometimes close wins over bad teams.
I would still lean New Orleans, and who the hell knows? Maybe I'm going to have a bet on this game before the end of the show. I haven't gotten quite there yet. What do you want to do with Bucks Spurs here to pay off the tease, Paul? Again, Makinen, vsin.com. The Milwaukee Bucks are 4-17 straight up, 2-18-1 ATS when playing a 4th straight road game. And money has come in on San Antonio in this game. I did see a 3.5 out there when I looked either last night or early this morning. Now it's down to 2.
Well, they look tired in that second half against Portland. We've mentioned how well Portland's playing. They've won 6 of 7. They got run out in the second half. So you think it'd be a big performance here from the Spurs at home, or all of a sudden struggling? But that's
for what it's worth.
That's just some good numbers there.
Wembanyama did nothing the first time they played the Bucks. That's probably a result of Freak guarding him, and Freak is elite defensively and made it a nightmare matchup for him. And I think he had 10 points. He stayed way under like all of his props in that game.
You can put that parlay in if you want. Freak 24-1 under run on his threes with the prop. 24 of the last 25 games he hasn't made a 3. And tomorrow the Kings play. And Sabonis has made a 3, 13 games in a row. There's your parlay. There you go, right? It's incredible.
You want to go with that for the G-Bank bet of the day?
You do that too. It's not bad. But I also want, I'm with you. Saturday night, the marquee game, the Lakers are in the Garden. I want Knicks team total over.
Yeah.
But the line's up, but I don't have a team total. Do you have a game total?
Okay.
Because the Knicks have scored 143 in their last 2 games. They are humming. And they will hunt Reeves tomorrow. And without AD and a Laker team that's 22nd in defense, hello.
Yeah, is Davis definitely out of that game?
I can't. They're supposed to be out the whole week.
Okay.
He got hurt on a Monday. Was it Monday he got hurt? Tuesday. You're right. Yeah. Tuesday. Supposed to be out a week at least.
Okay.
I can't imagine he plays.
Okay.
Domino strain.
Keep going here. I will get a number on this game.
Best Bets brought to you by G-Bank, official bank of VSiN. If you're serious about sports betting, need the G-Bank Visa signature card. Most credit cards treat sports books and gaming transactions as cash advances, even when you put your own money on the card. G-Bank treats gaming transactions as purchases, so you're typically saving up to 3 to 5% on cash advance fees right there. For limited time, get a $250 bonus after you spend $1,000 in the first 90 days. Apply now, vsin.com/Gbank, vsin.com/Gbank. We mentioned the parlay because it's, Sabonis is like in the $2 range. But again, he's made it a 3-13 in a row, and then Freak's like $3, $3.50 on the no. He doesn't even try him anymore. But 24 of the last 25 without a 3. And then tomorrow night, get ready for it. Knicks team total over. Saturday night at home against the Lakers. Long road trip, and they can't defend. And the Knicks have been unbelievable on fire offensively.
Okay, I'll give it to you here because I'm seeing right now the number overall on the game. First of all, what do you make of the point spread?
Man, that's high, but
the Knicks are 9 or 9.5 in the game. That's a big number.
Yeah. It's also, I think LeBron wants to put on a show, but
the total is 227.5 or 228. Good point about LeBron. So that'll put the team total for the Knicks. It's going to be high. That'll put the team total around 118.5, 119 in that neighborhood.
It's good.
You think that's good to go over?
That's juicy.
They're averaging more than 30 a quarter. Again, with this offense,
yes,
and how poor the Lakers defense will be without Davis on the court. And
look what the Sixers did.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Brunson and company should eviscerate this team. I know it was a loser by 0.5 point for me the other day against Denver, but I got to come back to it with it again tomorrow. Have to. My buddy Jason's going to the game. Like you, he said he's got to see LeBron before he calls it quits.
You have to.
Lives in New York.
Yeah.
He's never seen him in person.
Good move. I like the Suns tonight, too. Laying 1.5 against Golden State. Golden State just got their big win against OKC.
Yeah.
This is the third meeting between the teams. The home team has won the first 2. Suns playing good ball. They did lose to Minnesota, their last home game the other night, but they're the better team right now. So I like the Suns laying a short number on the road tonight in one of the marquee TV games as well.
I'll give you a couple of other things to consider. In the Bulls-Raptors game, I think this is a really good matchup tonight for Toronto. I think they can maybe squash the Bulls.
Yeah.
For what it's worth, favorites are on a run of 14-1 straight up, 8-1-1 ATS in this series. And Toronto's laying 4.
Oh, up to 4 now.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Raptors are like red hot.
Yeah.
And I just think
it got started with you caught Atlanta at the right time, too.
Right.
I'm also concerned about, number one, the Bulls can't stop anything.
Oh, this is going to be a matchup nightmare for Chicago in this game.
But you got all these guys with trade rumors.
Mm-hmm.
So their mind has to be wandering about where am I going to be? Am I out the door? What's going to happen here with the deadline next week? And my name being mentioned. Can you focus?
Mm-hmm. Clippers are playing against the Hornets. This is on the road in Charlotte tonight. Norman Powell. Now, I know Kawhi's back, and Kawhi's taking a lot of shots, and his minutes are going up per game.
Wasn't he snubbed for All-Star? That's the angle here, too?
I didn't notice that.
I
Was he really?
think,
Okay.
Luke, can you help me out on that? This guy's having a hell of a year. He is absolutely the most improved player. This guy's phenomenal. And a big reason why they have their record. Number one, I think the total's too low as well. But I think that it points to Powell over here.
Paul, he's, again, the prop, you can find this. His prop tonight is 21.5, and he's 28-11 over that number. And even with Kawhi coming back in recent games, Powell is still playing 36, 37 minutes.
Yep.
He's still taking a ton of shots, and he has still gone over like every single time. Now, this can factor in. It's much similar to my Austin Reeves angle last night. The blowout was possible because the Wizards are so bad.
Sure.
The Clippers are playing great ball. Charlotte, they're not that good. And this could turn into a 27-point rout in the third quarter, and then the starters take a seat on the bench, and he's got 19 points.
I don't know if that happens, though.
Well, it might not. I know.
They're on a road trip, too. That's, tough one. I'm absolutely with you with Powell. Two good angles there with Powell. I'll show you disrespect card and also the run he's on with the over.
Yep.
I can't believe the Sabonis thing. That's crazy.
With the made threes?
Because he's only taken like 1 or 2 a game. And he did it right away in the last game. So 13 in a row. So always go to vsin.com and fire up that prop analyzer. It's a piece of cake right there. Points, rebounds, assists, everything over, under, who's hot, who's not.
I wanted to bring this up, too. Tomorrow's college basketball card is
very good.
Phenomenal.
Yep. Any surprises?
Well, DraftKings put up the numbers like way early this morning when I noticed them. So some of these numbers that are going to be on the games for tomorrow.
Duke 13.5 against Carolina?
I know it. I know. The mighty have fallen, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
What do you make of St. Mary's laying 1 at home to Gonzaga?
That caught my attention. Yep. I like the Zags.
Calipari goes back to Rupp Arena.
Yep.
Kentucky's laying 11.5.
Letdown spot.
For sure. But also, is it a letdown with Calipari coming back?
I think for Kentucky, yes. I think Arkansas got a big performance. Especially, you think the kids will get fired up.
He's probably going to have,
him.
I would think anyway.
But Kentucky's off the huge win as a double-digit dog. Now they're laying 11.5. I don't like that. Houston 10.5 at home to Texas Tech.
I know.
Ooh, and Baylor 1 against Kansas.
I think I'm going to have to bet Baylor at home.
Tennessee 3.5 against Florida.
I did see there was a 4.5 out there. I would like 4.5 with Florida.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you too, the Marquette UConn total at 146.5 might be a little bit light.
Sounds good.
So, professional better. Richard Munchkin on the program coming up next. Pauly's favorite guest in the 7+ years on this show. He would go anywhere in the world if he had an edge. Wait until you hear the Scotland Yard story coming up next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
All right, this is going to be a blast. Love our next guest. Richard Munchkin joins the program on the desk here live at Circa Resort and Casino, author of the book Gambling Wizards, co-host of Gambling with an Edge. You can follow him on X at RWM21. Pleasure seeing you again today, sir. How are you?
Good, really well, and I'm happy to be here. I haven't seen you guys in a long time.
Yeah, the first time, which would have been, I think, the last time that you were on, if I recall correctly, was when we were at the South Point still.
Yeah.
So several years ago.
At like 6 a.m. or something. It was
crazy times, right? This is much better for everybody, I think, involved. So you've been doing this for a long time, professional gambler, for this audience and trying to go back down memory lane to explain exactly what you've done. What did you do before gambling? How did you eventually get into it?
So I grew up outside Chicago, and the winters are horrendous.
Sure.
And so everybody played games, right? When it was cold outside, you play. And I just loved it, right? From the time I was little, my dad taught me to play chess when I was 3. My grandmother taught me to play gin rummy. Every holiday involved pinochle or poker with my uncles and my grandfathers and all that stuff. So in high school, my older brother, says, a couple of friends are coming over. We're going to play poker. Do you want to play? And I said, yeah. I had watched my dad and my grandpa, and literally nickels and dimes, 5 and 10 cents. But I remember at the end of the night, I had won $5.20. And it was like the heavens opened and the angels began to sing. And I was like, oh, my God, you can actually make money playing cards. Like, this is the greatest thing in the world, right? So I became obsessed, and backgammon was really popular then. And I started playing backgammon and poker. And I went through college playing backgammon and poker. And when I was about 20, I was in a bar playing backgammon with this friend, Jerry the dentist. And Jerry tells me, I just got back from Vegas, and I have a system for beating blackjack. And I, kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, yeah, right. And he's like, no, this is real. Like, you can actually have a mathematical advantage at blackjack by counting cards. And he started to explain it to me. And I thought, all right, this sounds plausible, right? And he told me about this book called Playing Blackjack as a Business. So I ordered the book and I read it, and I was like, oh, this is math. Like, this is the real thing. So I start practicing, right, in my basement at night. And for my 21st birthday, my gift to myself was one of those 3 nights and 4 days in fabulous Las Vegas, including the airfare and all that. And I came out here, and I didn't know how to count yet. I hadn't perfected it, but I knew basic strategy. So I'm here. I won like $200 during that trip. And I thought, oh my God, if I can win like this, just knowing basic strategy, just think how much money I can make once I start counting cards. And so then I had a plan. And my plan was I was going to finish college and then move out here. And ultimately, my goal was always to go to Hollywood and become a movie star. So, and if that didn't work out, my backup was I would be a television star instead. And so I came out here, and I didn't have a lot of money. So I thought, all right, I'll get a job as a blackjack dealer, and that way I can practice counting cards 8 hours a day while I'm dealing.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And then I'd go out and play for, I didn't have a lot of money. I'm betting $5 or whatever back then. And, and that was how I started. And then what happened was, the card counting community back then was so small that all the card counters got to know each other. And I was dealing in a place where the Mirage sits today, called the Castaways. And we had single deck and great rules. So every card counter in the world came in there. And I would talk to them while I was dealing to them. And one day, a card counter that I know came in, and he said, there's this Australian guy in town. He's got a big blackjack team, and he wants to play backgammon for a lot of money. So I was like, great, set it up, whatever he wants to play for. Because I knew all the best players in the world, and none of them were from Australia. And anyway, so I met him, and his name was Alan Woods. And we started playing backgammon and became kind of quick friends. And at the end of a week, he says to me, how come you're not playing blackjack for more money? And I said, well, I don't have a bankroll. I'm just starting out. He was like, well, how about I put up $20,000 and you play for me and you double it and then we split the money. I'm like, you've known me a week and you're going to hand me $20,000? This is like $1980, you know?
Yeah.
And he reaches into his coat and he pulls out 2 10-packs and he slides them across the table to me. And that's how I became a professional blackjack player.
Oh, my God.
Damn.
And one of the best ever. So, quick, you mentioned you were retired, and we'll get to what you're doing now, but you were retired. You said you were tired of living out of a suitcase. Did you also retire? You did so well, and you were not allowed to play at so many places?
Well, so, my standard line is retiring is easy. I've done it like a dozen times. Huh? So I keep retiring from gambling and then, coming back into it. So the first time I retired was like 1983, and I went to Hollywood to become a movie star. But then I kept getting dragged back into it. And it wasn't so much that I got thrown out of everywhere, but, back then you would get thrown out on day shift and you would go right back in on swing shift. I mean, it really was nothing, and then they started opening casinos all over the United States. You could go around, and never hit the same place twice in a year. But I did get tired of living out of a suitcase. That definitely, especially once I got married and had kids and all that, I didn't like being away from home. But I was still, when a good game came up, I was going to go play.
Okay, now how does it evolve? How does it evolve to that then? How does it become, I'm scouting all over, I have so many friends, go here, I'll go to Russia, play this game, whatever. How does it get to that point?
Well,
And how long did it take?
Right away, I realized that I needed a bigger edge than counting cards, because your edge is like 1%, and which means you can go on these horrendously long losing streaks, which I certainly went through my share. And so I learned I needed a bigger edge. And kind of the first step then was called shuffle tracking, where you keep track of the way the cards are shuffled, and then you can cut the big cards to the front, and you can pretty much double your edge doing that. And then the next step is called ace tracking, where you memorize strings of cards and you know when aces are coming out. And if you bet into an ace, if you know one of your cards is going to be an ace, you have a 50% advantage. So way bigger than counting cards. The other good thing about learning how to do other things besides counting cards is the casinos really don't understand what's happening. So they all know what card counting looks like. They know how to spot it right away. But if you start winning and they see, well, he's not counting cards. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I heard bosses say that. Well, he's not counting cards. They don't know anymore. And so what happens is, eventually, when I would get thrown out, it's either because somebody recognized me and knew who I was, or I won too much money. And they just were like, we don't know what's going on, but you can't play anymore.
Professional gambler, bettor, Richard Munchkin, our guest here, and he's in studio at Circa Resort and Casino. It's Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. About 2 minutes left in this segment. If you were 21 today, could you do this for a living? Could you do what you've done for the past 45 years?
Absolutely. And first of all, I forbade my son to learn how to count cards because just because you don't want to, having a clean name is really valuable. And you do not want to get burned out and have your name get out there by counting cards, which they are going to find very quickly. There are guys who are still making mid-six figures a year counting cards, but they live in their car, basically.
They're driving
just
on a daily basis. It's like a referee who does college basketball games. They're in Logan, Utah one night and Albuquerque, New Mexico 2 days later.
Yep, and they go into a casino and they might get to play 10 minutes or they might get to play 10 hours. And then as soon as they get the tap on the shoulder, they get in the car and they drive down the road to the next place.
So think about that gamble you're taking.
Wow.
You're going to drive who knows how long to a place that 10 minutes might be it. See you later.
Yeah, and they may circulate your picture to all the places in the area, so you got to drive to the next state.
Right.
You know. So, but yeah, that is not a life I would want, or I would want my son to have. The other thing is, well, we're coming to an out here, so. Hang on to that thought then.
Yep. We'll continue. We have so much more to get into. Richard Munchkin's our guest. He's in studio here, author of the book Gambling Wizards, co-host of Gambling with an Edge. You can follow him on X. He's at RWM21. And we will get into the Scotland Yard story, which you've told once before on this show. You've told several times overall, like on your podcast, everything like that. It's one of the most amazing stories you're ever going to hear. And realizing when the Russian mob was also involved. So more coming up next here with Richard Munchkin.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Welcome back. We're live downtown Las Vegas, Circa Resort and Casino. Fabulous guest in studio, Richard Munchkin, professional gambler. You can follow him on X. He's at RWM21, co-host Gambling with an Edge, author of Gambling Wizard. So you just told the story of what your career was like going back to the 1980s to today. What was allowed back then compared to modern day Las Vegas?
So, back then, you could walk up to a casino cage, cash out $50,000. No one would dream of asking you for your name, let alone an ID. And you could bet more then than you can bet today. I blame that on the corporations taking over the casinos, and they're not interested in making the most revenue. They're interested in keeping their jobs. And so they don't want to have any kind of a big swing because they could lose their job over it. So the limits are lower. All of this cash transaction reporting and all that stuff. And, it's a nightmare in paperwork for the casinos. But, so you could just get away with so much more. And the other thing was the communication. Half the time, there was no camera that actually worked in the casino. They couldn't take your picture. They couldn't distribute your picture to everybody. Now, you get thrown out of, say, the Bellagio, every MGM property on the Strip has your picture, and they're waiting for you to walk in. So that makes things a lot harder. So you could get away with a lot more back then. But the main thing is, the limits were higher, and than even in real dollars.
Well, that's crazy to me. You told that story. The guy who you just met for like a week gave you the $20,000 to start playing blackjack with. $20,000 back in 1980 is more than $75,000 today.
Yeah. So, and you could go bet $50,000 on a sporting event, on a football game. Try to do that in Las Vegas, other than Circa, who on Sunday you could probably bet 50K.
For sure, yeah.
But you couldn't do it on the Strip.
Did you want to expand a little more on the leap, going from blackjack, counting cards, and how that evolved?
Yeah, one of the most important things in any form of gambling is your network. The people that you surround yourself with are so important, and the bigger your network is, the more successful you're going to be. And that was really kind of the secret to my success, was meeting a lot of people, and I'm a friendly guy, and I made a lot of friends, and the more friends you have, the more money you make. And I've said before, the real key for me was I teamed up. I always wanted to play with other partners. I don't like being on the road alone. Sure. I want to be with other people. And I always teamed up with people who are smarter than I am. And that was really the secret to my success.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. How about the trust factor? And also, it's the scouting. And hey, and you told the story once you met a guy in a back alley. He handed you a bag of money. How does it get to, Richard, you got to check out this game in Korea. It's unbelievable.
Well, in the case of Korea specifically, I mentioned the guy who handed me the $20,000 was a guy named Alan Woods, who he died about 15 years ago, and he left an estate of $1 billion because he went to Hong Kong with a guy named Bill Benter, and Bill Benter invented betting on horse racing using computer models, and they were partners. And Bill Benter was actually also on one of my first blackjack teams. So anyway, what happened was in 1986, Alan was in Hong Kong betting horses, and he called me up and he said, hey, I found a really good game, and I'd like you to go play it, and I'll put up the money, and, we'll split it. And I was like, I have teammates, and I'm really kind of committed to them, and I'd like to play, but I can't. I can't go play for somebody else when I'm playing with them. And he said, well, I'll tell you what, you guys all can go play it, and whatever you want to bet, just double it, and I'll take the other half of the bankroll. So I said, okay, and it was Korea, and the game was unbelievable. The best game probably I've ever played in my life, in terms of, for you to make money out of a casino, the casino has to be making money. And in Korea in the 80s, Japan was booming. And the average guy in that casino in Seoul would walk in. The way here, the average guy will come in and buy in with $100 bill. There it was 1,000.
Oh, geez.
In 1986.
What?
And it was almost all Japanese players. And
this is blackjack.
And this is blackjack, and the rules were so good that a basic strategy player had an advantage off the top without even counting cards, right? It was unbelievable. And so we started playing there, and one day I walk in, and I walk around the casino, and I count 40 guys that are all there counting cards, right? And we had kind of heard a rumor that the casino would not throw you out if you didn't bet more than $200. And so they were all, you could eat at the table. They would come in, order, eggs and orange juice and eat breakfast at the table while they played, spreading. And I called my teammates and I said, this is not going to last. Even though they're only betting and we didn't want to bet $200. The limit was $3,000. We don't want to bet $200. So I was like, this is not going to last. And one of my partners said, well, what we need are Japanese businessmen to bet the money. And that's what we did. We started recruiting these Japanese businessmen. They would come from Tokyo with a Japanese passport, and they would sit at the table with us as if they didn't know us. And, the white guy would be betting $5, and they'd be betting 2 hands of 3,000 or 3 hands of 3,000. And, we took more than $1 million out of that one casino. And the only reason that it ended was there was basically a degenerate gambler, a Japanese guy that was practically living in the casino. And he was a bust out, complete bust out. And he approached one of our Japanese big players and said, hey, can you loan me $10,000? And our guy said, of course, said, no, I don't know you. And the guy said, well, why don't you get it from your friends? And he said, what friends? And he said, the white guy that's always at the table with you. And he had figured it out just because he was in there all the time and had seen it. And, our guy said, we don't know what you're talking about, right? And anyway, that guy ended up going and ratting us out to the casino.
Wow.
And then, so what the casino did was they didn't bar the Japanese guys. They came and barred us, the $5 bettors, and that kind of ended that.
So you took $1 million out of that casino. How long was that stretch?
3 years. But, there were other casinos in the country. So we probably took $1.5 million out of Korea during that. And here's a funny thing about Alan Woods, who, was taking half the bankroll. After we had won like $300,000 or $400,000, he said, you know what, you guys can just play. I don't have to take any of this anymore.
Wow.
Like, Alan, you're the one who gave us the game. And he's like, yeah, but I've never made so much money for doing nothing. Like,
oh my God.
You don't have to cut me in anymore.
So obviously you and your entire team moved to Korea to specifically play that game and then branched out for more than 3 years.
Well, yeah, we had an apartment there in Seoul, but you would have to fly back and forth because your visa could only last, I think, 90 days was the limit. So, and we didn't want the same guy in the casino with the Japanese guy all the time, right? So we would switch off every couple of weeks.
What was the feeling like, and did it happen more than once, when you used your Hollywood connections and used makeup and a mask or whatever, and then the pit boss said, hey, Richard, how you doing?
Yeah. So that happened to me here in the States, right? But we were trying, before we got the Japanese guys, we were trying to, how could we be Asian looking, right? So I got the special effects makeup person from the movies I was working on.
Oh my God.
To make up a friend of mine, right? And so they put elastic around the back of his head with tape that would pull his eyes back, and he had skin tint to make his skin darker and a black wig, and he's like, oh my God, this looks ridiculous. They're going to know this is a disguise and nobody is, going to fall for this. And he gets in the elevator at the casino, and a guy gets on the elevator and looks at him and goes, what part of India are you from? And we were like, okay, I guess this might work.
Get ready for Big Game 59 with a big deal to match. Save $59 off the VSiN Pro annual subscription. Use code FTM. Every best bet, every host, every guest. VSiN.com/subscribe. Promo code FTM.
Stick around. I promise we're going to get to the Scotland Yard story with Richard Munchkin coming up in the next hour of the program here. Also, Richard has said there is no way he would sit down in a high-stakes poker game because cheating is out of control in poker. I can't wait to hear this coming up next on VSiN.